Hello explorers, thanks for joining us again and welcome back to our channel. If you are joining us for the first time, we want to thank you for watching. In this episode, I will be looking at two very important things. First, I will look at China and the European Union relationship with regards to the continent of Africa. Secondly, I will look at China and the United States of America relationship with the continent of Africa. This video will be one of our short series that we've talked about a couple of months ago. In this episode, I will be looking at some specifics on how the United States and China, the European Union, are interacting with the continent of Africa, why the continent of Africa has risen and is asking questions with regards to its geopolitical partner. So I will encourage you to watch this video to the end for clarity and better understanding. So without any much delay, let's just dive straight into it. China and the European Union are both active in Africa with different motivations and approach. However, European ties are much older than that of China. Africa's historical relationship with European countries derives from a past of exploitation of the continent of Africa and division that have been difficult for African countries to overcome. The European colonial history in Africa has led to requests for reparations, mainly arising from slavery and also exploitation of the continent entirely. Over the last decades, the relationship between the European Union and Africa has focused more on development, aid, and also cooperation in governance, sustainable development, trade, and also development through various economic partnership agreements. If you look at other aspects, China, on the other hand, has engaged in Africa, does not share the negative legacy and background of the European countries. Chinese engagement has been driven primarily by infrastructural development and investment and resource extraction. However, it should be emphasized that China considers infrastructural investment as an essential source for more secure economic growth, based on a Chinese proverb which states, "If you want to get rich, build roads first." This adage reaffirms the Chinese perspective that infrastructural development buildings is essential for growth and also for building a positive legacy from the Chinese presence in the continent of Africa. China's presence has challenged the European Union's traditional influence in Africa by offering an alternative to the governance and also conventional Western partners. For the best interests of Africa, the European Union and China, however, should engage in more development projects in the continent of Africa with a win-win perspective, which will reaffirm or significantly contribute to the continent's development. If you look at the continent of Africa as it continues to choose its own partners, Africa will make sure that it puts its own interests first. That's the reason why we see different voices and unity across the continent at the moment, if you compare this to the past couple of decades. If you look at China and the United States of America's own perspective in the continent of Africa based on their interaction, both China and the United States of America have been actively engaged in Africa. The United States has focused primarily on private sector investment and market access for United States of America's companies. Additionally, the United States has launched initiatives like the African Growth and Opportunity Act to provide duty-free access to the American market for some African products. To counter the BRI, known as the Belt and Road Initiative, the United States has also been increasing its effort to enhance diplomatic presence and increase U.S.-African relations and trade investment ties as well. It has also implemented initiatives like the Young African Leadership Initiative known as YALI to build relationships with African leaders and slow down the influence of Confucius Institute, the purpose of which is to promote Chinese language and also culture. Additionally, the United States of America has been concerned with a possible enlargement of Chinese military presence in the continent of Africa. The US is present in Africa through its African Command known as AFRICOM, a vital factor for capacity building and fighting against terrorism in a number of areas. However, we all have seen how Niger has kicked out the United States of America from its territory, considering the over $100 million drone base in the city of Agadez in the country of Niger. In the technology arena, where the China and US strategic clash has been deepening, particularly in the cybersecurity area, artificial intelligence, and the SG or 5G technology. African countries must distance themselves from this division or divisive push for technological dominance in order to be able to choose what is best for the African people and for the African people themselves. We want to thank you for watching, hopefully for giving you a perspective with regards to the major players' interaction with the continent of Africa. Leave us a comment, keep the conversation going, and let us know what you think with regards to the geopolitical presence at the moment and why Africa has become so important. But now, we are looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
President Ramaphosa, colleagues, friends from the press, I am pleased to join you here. At the outset, I wish to thank President Ramaphosa and the South African government for the thoughtful arrangements they made for the BRICS summit this year. BRICS countries are all countries with important influence and shoulder important responsibilities for world peace and development. During the summit, we had in-depth exchanges on the current international situation and BRICS cooperation, reached broad consensus, adopted the declaration, and achieved fruitful outcomes.
Good morning. It's a great pleasure to welcome Chairperson Faki here to the State Department, to Washington, for what is now our 9th high-level dialogue between the African Union and the United States. I think this reflects the vital and increasingly close partnership between the United States and the AU, and it also reflects the critical role that the AU plays not only regionally but around the world. That was further reflected in the fact that the AU was welcomed into the G20 just this year. We are partners in working to strengthen democratic institutions, to provide for regional security, to deal with the most important challenges that our people face, whether it's dealing with climate change, food insecurity, infrastructure, global health. In each of these areas and more, the African Union and the United States are partners. The relationship between the United States and the African Union is maybe the best example of our commitment and our conviction that when it comes to Africa, it's not what we're doing for Africa, it's what we're doing with Africa and in support of Africa.